We're joined from our Abuja studios by Mr. Tahir, who is the Assistant Controller General of Customs. Morning, thank you for joining us today. Well, when we actually hear about these figures in terms of the porosity of our borders, perhaps we should even start by asking, what can you tell us about this particular comment about how porous our borders are in the first instance?
Thank you for having me, but I can't really hear you very well.
Yeah, in terms of the porosity of our borders, are they really that porous?
I think, thank you very much for having me. Well, people talk about the porosity of the borders, but there's one thing that comes to mind. You have to remember that these borders were creations of our colonial masters, and they were arbitrarily drawn across the borders. There is no doubt about it that in third world countries like Nigeria, the borders don't have some of the advantage of modern gadgets for surveillance of the borders like you have in the developed world. However, most of these borders are manned by the various security agencies that are positioned there to ensure that our borders remain quite safe.
Okay, that's part of the areas where customs, of which you are also surveyed, but only recently we did see customs apprehend some people. And how regular is this? Is the customs succeeding, or do some people, or you have some challenges? How do you even go about some of these apprehensions that you eventually get?
Well, apart from the collection of revenue, which is the principal function of the Nigerian Customs Service, part of our critical functions is suppression of smuggling and facilitation of legitimate trade. Since assumption of power by our present Controller General, Alhaji Abdullahi Indediko, he had focused on the issues of the borders. One of the first things he did was to ensure that the welfare of the officers is enhanced. Not only that, he made sure that he purchased more than 500 patrol vehicles. Additionally, we also purchased, he sought for permission and purchased some AK-47. He also purchased some body armors for officers. These and other things also made sure that the officers are most officers are highly empowered, and as a result of this, you saw most of these seizures.
You know, one of the things that a lot of people, sometimes we tend to confuse customs and immigration, because oftentimes, in fact, your names are always mentioned in the same sentence. So you have customs and immigration. Do you think in any way that your role could actually be overshadowing that of of immigration? Or do you think that there isn't enough synergy between both your agencies? Do you think they should be merged, for instance?
There is perfect synergy between the Nigerian Customs Service and the Immigration Service. Yes. The function of the Nigerian Customs Service is collection of revenue, suppression of smuggling, and facilitation of legitimate trade. While the Immigration Service, their main function is to check the influx of people into Nigeria. We work hand in hand in the border areas.
But oftentimes, yes, it is the customs people, you know, and rightly so too, because you're dealing with goods oftentimes rather than the people. But we hardly ever get to see, say, a parade of illegal immigrants into the country, maybe by the Immigration Service. Do you think that there should be more awareness on this particular area as well?
Well, I sincerely believe our brothers in the immigration should also put more effort on this. But for us in the customs, whenever we make such major interceptions, we make sure that we bring it into the public view.
What do you also have to say about the existence of cartels? Only sometime last week, we saw goods worth about 20 million naira, especially frozen foods. What about 20 million naira around the Oyo area, Oyo axis, the border area around Oyo State, being confiscated and burnt? What do you have to say about the accusation that sometimes there is a cartel and it is those who have refused to, you know, is it wet the path that actually get caught in all of these things? Is it true?
No, this is far from the truth. The Nigerian Customs Service under the current management has done so well in terms of the welfare for officers that we view with all seriousness any act of impropriety. You can see that in recent times there have been several seizures recorded in the various border areas. All these seizures are made because most of our officers are highly motivated. They have been, all the necessary things have been provided for them, and all the necessary wherewithals have been provided for them, and as a result of this, most of these seizures are made by the officers, and this is brought to the public view.
You may have about 1,499 illegal routes and just about 84 legal routes. Now, if you were to man all of this to ensure, as you said, your major responsibility is to curb smuggling and revenue collection for the government, how do you handle manpower and equipment to ensure that this 1,000?
You are aware that recently the service recruited over 10,000 young officers who had been given proper training. These officers had been posted to the various areas in order to carry out our functions as expected by the members of the public and by government.
Sorry, when you say various areas, are you saying they've been posted to these illegal routes, the 1,499 illegal routes, or to the 84 legal routes?
No, they have been posted to the border areas.
How do you spread them?
This include the illegal routes and the legal routes. Those officers are supposed to be patrolling the various areas along the border areas.
Okay, let's talking about smuggling. I do know, I'm sure you do too, that the government they came up with this policy on rice and how they need to make the country self-sufficient in rice production. But it was only recently when the Minister of Agriculture visited, I can't remember, some states in the north, and they were also told him that something has to be done about smuggling of rice. How is the customs faring with that responsibility?
This is one particular area that recently we have recorded a spectacular performance. Recently, we had a synergy with the Rice Importers Association. In fact, they also provided us with some working implements. Even before then, we had known that it is our responsibility to ensure that the borders are properly policed. But as a result of the recent drive for curb rice smuggling, all our warehouses around the border areas are full to the brim of seizures of rice. Just last week, we seized over 5,000 bags of rice along the Badagry Creek. You remember very well also that about a month or so ago, we also seized over 8,000 bags of rice. So the battle to prevent the smuggling of rice into this country is ongoing. The Nigerian Customs Service is up to its responsibility to ensure that illegal goods are not brought into this country. The issue of rice smuggling is of fundamental interest to the Nigerian Customs Service, and that is why the battle line is drawn between us and the smugglers of rice.
How does customs, or maybe not necessarily a modus operandi, but do you just stay on the borders, or peradventure, if one or two escapes the borders and gets into the market, do you have people who kind of sniff in and find out what's going on in case they escape the borders?
The law provides for us to go after smuggled goods wherever they are. Section 8 of the SEMA gives us that right. However, we pursue the smugglers not just at the borders, we pursue them wherever they are. But market raids are very, very delicate. Before you go into the markets, you need to plan properly. So what we do is to concentrate our efforts along the border areas and the inlets that comes into this country.
What about arms? Because, I mean, that's one of the things that gives the country a lot of concern. What about smuggling of arms? Do you also record any success in this case? Because time and again, we hear of lots of cases. We expect to get a follow-up or a statement from the service, but sometimes maybe it misses the people. But what can you tell us about this?
The issue of arms is the responsibility of all security agencies. But in recent times, you've seen what the Nigerian Customs Service has been able to do. Just about a few weeks ago, we had a major seizure of arms in the Oyo-Osun axis. A total number of over 17,000 live ammunition were seized by officers of the Nigerian Customs Service, and I think it was in the press. But over the years, you must have also seen some of the seizures of arms and ammunition that have taken place, not only in the ports, but also in the airports. So the Nigerian Customs Service is up to its task in this area. Periodically, you see some of the seizures that were made in this regard that have been handed over to the Nigerian police. The issue of smuggling of arms, it is a joint responsibility of all security agencies. But ours, it comes as what we call as an agency function. When we seize arms and ammunition, we administer them and hand it over to the Nigerian police. And I think you will agree with me that the Nigerian Customs Service has done well in this area. Just like I said a few weeks ago, over 17,000 pieces of arms, of ammunition were seized, live cartridges were seized in Oyo-Osun, and that has been handed over to the Nigerian police.
You know, some people always believe that oftentimes for every seizure that is made, like the one we're saying on TV right now, that many more could have passed undetected if they're properly covered up maybe in suitable materials. And because oftentimes people would think that you were able to make this particular one on intelligence. What about the ones that, you know, you don't get intelligence for? Do you think, do you get the fear that there could be scenarios like that?
Well, the issue of smuggling is something that affects countries all over the world. No country ever really eliminates smuggling 100%. But the best that most countries could do is to bring smuggling to its barest minimum. The Nigerian Customs Service has done a lot in this regard. Since our present Controller General took over the leadership, mantle of leadership of the Nigerian Customs Service, the level of seizure has grown exponentially, not only in terms of quantum, but also in terms of value. There is no doubt about it. Like I said, no customs administration can eliminate smuggling completely. But the best we could do is to bring it to its barest minimum. The Nigerian Customs Service has been working assiduously to make sure that smuggling is brought to its barest minimum. And that is why you've been seeing some of these spectacular seizures that have been coming into the press.
Now, beyond these seizures, we're looking at live cartridges. There are people who paid for these things to be brought in. The people who possibly sell these things, they're going to be supplying them. Does customs simply stop at the seizure of these things? Or are they also interested in those who paid for these things to be brought in and who are going to be distributing it within Nigeria?
For the customs, the issue of seizing, we don't stop at the issue of seizing alone. What we do is, after seizing, you investigate it thoroughly with the aim of getting to the roots of the problem. And apart from that, we also make sure that the smugglers themselves are prosecuted so as to serve as deterrent. So the seizure alone is not enough. But in particular, when it comes to arms, when we seize, we do our own internal investigation before we hand over to the Nigerian police, who are experts at this. This is part of the synergy that we have with our sister agencies at the border. What we do is, when we seize, we hand it over. After doing due diligence, we hand it over to the Nigerian police, who will continue with the investigation. Like you said, I quite agree with you that we rely so much on intelligence to make some of these seizures. There's no way somebody who would want to bring in arms into this country will just do it like this. He would want to use the most discreet measure in order to perpetrate his illegal activity. So what we do, we rely so much on intelligence to ensure that we intercept this kind of nefarious activities.